How are we doing, guys? Welcome back to Barca Buzz. It's exciting news, this one. It's exciting news. I'm back joined by Robbie. We are here reacting to the potential. We strictly say potential or likely, whatever way you want to put it. The news that Joan Garcia, it looks almost certain now, is going to join Barcelona. Robbie, first and foremost, this is pretty amazing news. I never thought I'd see the day Barcelona make a big signing in the goalkeeping department. It felt like we're going to be stuck with the same kind of goalkeeping options for the next 10 or 20 years. It feels like an eternity, but we're now making a signing, mate, which seems good. It seems good.
Yeah, man, I haven't felt this happy since my nephew born, to be honest. Like the moment I saw Fabrizio's confirmation, because I'm kind of skeptic with our Barcelona journalists. Like I gave them the credit, but the Fabrizio confirmation just is different. And when you see basically Fabrizio confirming the interest and the fact that we're making everything in our power to get him, it's something unbelievable.
Yeah, there might even be a scenario where by the time this video goes out, which probably will be later on this evening, it might even be confirmed by the time this video goes out. So apologies for that if anyone is catching up on this video, maybe a day or so after. But at the time of speaking, it hasn't been fully confirmed yet. But we're pretty much 99.99% there. I think we're there. We're there. I mean, obviously, with Barcelona, you never know. I think always expect the unexpected, particularly over the last couple of years. But this one seems pretty much done. And I think the biggest thing for me, Robbie, is obviously Joan Garcia is an unbelievable goalkeeper to start off with. But I think it's the cultural significance of a signing like this. The fact that we have got a player from Espanyol so highly thought of by the Espanyol fan base. I mean, I only know one or two Espanyol fans, and I've not actually spoken to them. They actually won't speak to me at this moment in time. They're that upset about this situation. I mean, it just feels like Barca's back being able to make signings like this in terms of making big statement signings, because this is a huge one for me in terms of I know obviously it's kind of been revealed that Joan Garcia is a Barca fan, and would have been a Barcelona player had, the scouts picked up on him sooner, sort of 2017, 2018 time when we initially looked at him. But this is significant, mate, in terms of not just for the fact how good he is a goalkeeper, how big a cultural sign this one is as well.
I completely agree. I wanted to say two things on this. When I went to Barcelona this season, again when they played the Rayo Vallecano, when we finally got the first place back, we had a taxi driver that took us from the airport to the game, and basically our broken Spanish and his broken English, we couldn't speak anything apart from Barcelona players. So I was just name dropping Barcelona players, and basically his face was unfazed. He didn't say nothing until I my mind immediately went to Juan Garcia, and when I said Juan Garcia, his face completely lit up. It's just it shows the fact that Juan Garcia basically had the streets of Espanyol. Everybody loved him. Like we would have talked for hours about Juan Garcia if the drive was longer. And the second thing was basically the last time we bought a goalkeeper from Espanyol was Zamora, and Zamora is now the trophy, basically the name of the trophy that's given to the best goalkeeper this season. So Juan Garcia basically is in great company, and for sure there are presidents and there will always be successor, and I think Juan Garcia is the perfect successor for that.
Absolutely. And let's obviously talk about the signing itself now in terms of the qualities of Juan Garcia. In terms of, I think first and foremost, I think it's the statistics on Juan Garcia in terms of preventing 8 goals this season. If you look at the pro shot XG, 8 goals over a season is absolutely insane. You think that's a goal every 4 games, almost a goal every 4 or 5 games prevented. I mean, that is absolutely insane, Robbie. In terms of, in the context of other keepers, I think obviously anything kind of above 3 or 4 would be considered pretty good over a season. I mean, the fact we're talking 8 goals here, literally the difference between Espanyol staying up and not just going down, probably finishing rock bottom in the league.
Yeah, well, firstly, I wanted to address the fact that if we're talking about Juan Garcia, we have to talk about Ter Stegen. Like, what's happened to him, what will happen to him, what's going to happen this
Of
season,
course.
not in the long future. And I wanted to say that I was a big skeptical at first to join the hashtag Ter Stegen out trend that we also it was number one trending in sports at some time, and I don't know if the credit is all to the fans on Twitter that basically pushed this move, because as we saw on different platforms on Instagram or YouTube or even Facebook, Ter Stegen is loved. Ter Stegen is basically their cult hero and is one of the favorites in the for even for the Catalan fans. But I wanted to say that I was on train with the hashtag Ter Stegen out until it went to the to a point where some fans started to attack his family, his personal life. I think that was a bit too far. I
Yeah,
like to
of
keep
course.
I like to keep Twitter only on football takes. I don't care about his of course, if it's shady personal life, I will talk about it. But if it's not and it's something completely normal, I wouldn't speak about it. I will completely forget about it and shove it under the bus and down with it. To talk about Ter Stegen, it's clear that he's past his prime. He will never, although goalkeepers tend to be better as soon as they hit 30 and they gain more experience and they rely more on the brain game rather than reflexes. In Ter Stegen's case, it's clear as day that he's past his prime. He will never regain his confidence. He's at an all-time low, and it's important for a goalkeeper to be trusted by his teammates. When you're an attacker, like in from my pro days, I remember playing with a goalkeeper with a good goalkeeper in your basically goal. It gives a full confidence boost, a full moral boost when you had Ter Stegen, even Pique said every shot on goal was almost a goal, and it was basically morally draining. You felt it through the screen. You actually felt it through the screen that every attacker basically started the game 1-0 down with Ter Stegen in goal, and it was something that was shown for the past few seasons and this season when he came back, especially against Villarreal.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, I mean, when it gets personal about Ter Stegen, I think it's way too far, and I think it's a recurring theme. It's not just Barcelona. It's absolutely not just Barcelona. It's modern football in terms of obviously things that happen on the pitch don't tend to stay on the pitch. It doesn't tend to just be criticism of individual performances. And listen, I have to say, I think Ter Stegen's performances have been nowhere near good enough for a long time now. I think you can probably go back to, I think obviously he had a good season in the league in 22-23, only in the league, not in the Champions League that year, but he did have a decent season that season. But I think if you go back to all the way to sort of Anfield 2019, I think Ter Stegen, confidence-wise, I honestly do go back to that moment. I know it was 6 years ago now, but I do keep going back to that moment and think that felt like a big turning point to Stegen's career. And, obviously, it's been a weird career for Ter Stegen, but I think obviously ultimately it should never get personal with Ter Stegen. I think ultimately, from everything I've seen in terms of and heard over the years, he sounds like a really nice person off the pitch. And I'm sad for him it hasn't worked out, but I think ultimately this should have happened a long time ago. I think other football clubs, other elite clubs, I think this would have happened a long time ago in terms of moving on the goalkeeping department. I go back to Liverpool under Klopp. Then we had Loris Karius in goal. All it took was, an iffy season. Obviously, he makes a big mistake in the Champions League final against Real Madrid, and straight away, Alisson Becker is getting signed. Pep at Man City with Claudio Bravo. You know, it doesn't feel like we have been ruthless, but under Hansi Flick, it feels like things have changed. And obviously, all the rumours are, and there is only rumours at this moment in time until Hansi Flick says it himself. But I think if you read between the lines, it feels like this is something like Hansi Flick has really pushed on. I think it hadn't been Hansi Flick in charge. If maybe go back to Xavi or Ronald Koeman, I'm not sure we make this side, and I genuinely don't. I think we do stick with our goalkeeping department. So I think it's encouraging from a ruthless side of things that Hansi Flick. I don't know if you've read similar, Robbie, but it feels like Hansi Flick has really pushed for this.
Yeah, as we know, the German mentality is basically ruthless. When good point on the Karius and Alisson Becker stuff or the Pep Guardiola stuff. I always said on Twitter, and it's basically one of the most important things. Champions League is a tourney for goalkeepers,
Of course, of
and
course.
will always be. For the last 10 years, the Champions League winner had a proper goalkeeper in their goal. We saw this season with Donnarumma; they basically saved everything against Arsenal, both home and away. They kept the players in game. Yeah, of course, it comes out to individual, like Fabian hitting a half volley in the top bins, but Donnarumma saved a lot of chances that basically were guaranteed goals with Ter Stegen in goal, perhaps even down to Bayern Munich had Neuer. Real had Courtois in the final and Lunin in the semi-final that played amazingly. City had Ederson that basically were their glue in the first build phase. Inter with Onana in the final. Inter again with Sommer in the final. Everything in the final and between the winner and the loser had come to who was the great goalkeeper in my opinion. And to pick the finalists, it all came down to the goalkeeper. And I think Juan Garcia is the right step into the right direction. I will also post a massive thread on Twitter about Juan Garcia, and there will be a lot of insights about him down to his meticulously good reflexes and good basically. He's more of a position first goalkeeper that relies on his great position awareness and knows where the goal is at and where the ball will end up at basically 9 out of 10 times, and he predicts basically. But he's a great goalkeeper and a massive upgrade from Szczesny even, and even from Ter Stegen. He's a completely massive upgrade that will benefit us a long time, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, his age as well is very good. He's not too young, which would have made me a little bit nervous if he was trying 20, but 24. He's at an age now where goalkeepers as well, their primes, as you've already kind of alluded to, Robbie, is later in the career. But I think 24 is a good age. I think there's still, room for improvement, and I think he is only going to get better in an elite team under Hansi Flick in terms of getting used to a different system. And I just think there's so many boxes he already ticks. Pretty much every box, I think he ticks to a pretty high standard. I think he's just an unbelievable talent that we've got. And I think if you look at the other clubs that we're looking at, Juan Garcia, obviously Arsenal have already got David Raya, Man City have already got Edison. Trying to think who else. Real Madrid got mentioned at one point. Whether that was serious or not, who knows? But there's a lot of different clubs. Newcastle as well getting mentioned. A lot of clubs that are in the Champions League next season, competitive teams in England, looking at Juan Garcia, which tells you a lot. And they've got decent goalkeepers already in place. So the fact that they see him as a upgrade just tells you how good the talent is there. And I think the character as well, the fact that he has been the leader for Espanyol, certainly last season and probably a few seasons before that, and you've seen the difference he made. I mean, when Espanyol stayed up 2 weeks ago, the whole crowd invaded the pitch, and the first person to go to is Juan Garcia, and that tells you a lot in terms of his individual influence in this Espanyol team. And I think you saw it in the game that ultimately sealed the title for us. It took a wonder goal, an absolute wonder goal from Lamine Yamal, and a deflection, and a great finishing deflection for Fermin Lopez's goal. I think anything else, Juan Garcia, it would have took something special that night to beat Juan Garcia, and that's exactly what we managed to produce. But you see why Real Madrid have gone to Espanyol this season and not won the game. And despite having, I think it was 10 shots on target in the game, you're seeing crazy results, crazy, overachievements from Espanyol, particularly at home this season. And I think Juan Garcia has been the main influence. I think whenever I've seen Espanyol play this season, all big.
About pressure when you come to Barcelona, I think Juan Garcia experienced that pressure by making Espanyol stay up, and it was on the other side of spectrum, like not competing for titles, but when you have in mind the fact that Espanyol has a lot of ultras and a lot of crazy diehard fans that basically will do everything for the club, and Juan Garcia basically managed to escape that club from the relegation and helped the team achieve a lot, because let's be honest, nobody believed in Espanyol to stay up. They were fighting relegation. They are poorly run. He even came out and said they are a poor club run and they need to address some good signings in some good areas and improve on that. And Juan Garcia managed that, and like you said, everybody from the crowd jumped on him and jumped to raise him to the floor, to the sky, and do everything to encapsulate this moment, because it was Juan Garcia's moment. Without Juan Garcia, Espanyol wouldn't stay up, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I genuinely think they finished bottom. Had 20th in the league. Had Juan Garcia not been in goal from this season, it being just an average goalkeeper. I honestly think he's made that much of a difference for them. And I think one thing that really stands out to me of Juan Garcia is in terms of the ability to sweep, in terms of being a sweeper keeper. I think that's something that's going to be crucial for a Hansi Flick team. And I think we've only seen it in parts for Espanyol, because obviously they do tend to sit a lot deeper. But whenever he's had to make that decision from the games I've seen, he's so decisive and gets the right decision, gets the ball, does whatever he has to do. And I think to be a keeper for Barca, I think you're going to have to be able to do that, especially in Hansi Flick's system. We know the gap in terms of how high the line is between our centre backs and goalkeeper. Chesney obviously this season, or Pena or Ter Stegen, the gap has been massive. And I think it's only really Chesney. Pena's shown potential as well in terms of doing that. But I think Chesney initially wasn't good at that at all. But I think he's got better as the season's gone on. But I think as soon as Garcia comes in, I just think he'll take to that really, really easily. I mean, would you be under the same impression there, Robbie?
Yeah, like you said, when you buy a goalkeeper for Barcelona is different. Like when you buy it for Real Madrid don't play a high line, and they don't need a sweeper keeper. Basically, all the sweeper keepers should have followed Neuer's Bayern and basically have the role model in him. But I think, like I said, I will drop a massive thread that I will explore this, but I do think Juan Garcia has the foundation to be a great sweeper keeper because, like we said, pressure is an immense drug, and pressure makes you do crazy things, and he will do everything in his power to stop the goals from coming at him because of his great mentality and his great positional awareness. If you have great positional awareness in the goal, you will have it outside the goal and outside the box too, and you can follow where the attack will basically come, and he will anticipate that and sweep the balls out, or even keep the ball or touch the ball and keep it in play, and with one touch you can follow the play through. And like I said, Juan Garcia definitely has the foundation because of his mental traits and the way he was raised. A Spanish goalkeeper will always be secure on the ball. I don't think there's a Spanish goalkeeper especially in Primera División, that doesn't know how to play with the ball. It's almost illegal for a Spanish goalkeeper to not know how to play with the ball, in my opinion.
It is academy training, in terms of it is something that's basically an absolute must for any Spanish goalkeeper. It's been good on the ball. I think I'd be very surprised if Juan Garcia at the very. I mean, it's hard to see in an Espanyol team. Espanyol tend to play a lot of long balls, so you don't tend to see the same kind of distribution that you maybe see in a Barcelona team. And there's a lot more short passes and being able to sort of beta press kind of thing. Encourage other teams to press us and play through that almost. Obviously we know how transitional a Hansi Flick team is, how vertical it is in terms of being able to do that is quite a crucial skill. I think it's something that maybe the three goalkeepers we have this season haven't been able to do so well. But I think Juan Garcia, I think it says mentality. That's the biggest thing as well. You say, Robbie, mentality. I think that's something we would lack. Chesney has shown it this season. I think it's made a difference alone from Chesney's mentality at times this season. I've looked back at, say, Benfica in the Champions League when we won 1-0 with 10 men. I've looked at that and think, different keeper in goal to Stegen, we probably don't see that one out at all. In fact, it probably goes the other way. Benfica score first, and we actually probably go out the Champions League just from that night alone. So mentality is a crucial thing. I think it's a very underrated aspect of goalkeeping. And you mentioned about the positional awareness, absolutely crucial. And when I look at Juan Garcia, what the keeper he really reminds me of, and I don't want to put too much pressure on him, but he reminds me a lot of Alisson. Maybe not quite as big as Alisson in terms of obviously reach and things like that and height, but the positional awareness, you very rarely see him have to absolutely sprawl across his goal to make a save. He's so aware of the situation that something that seems like a basic save would be a very difficult save for another goalkeeper, if that makes sense, because he reads the situation before it's happened. And I think that's the sign of a great goalkeeper, because I think when I see, say, for example, a David De Gea, maybe early on at Man United before he dropped off, a lot of the time you see him diving all across his goal, making wonder save after wonder save. But when you actually see the saves he makes, you think another goalkeeper who anticipates the situation better catches shots that maybe David De Gea would parry or another goalkeeper would parry, if that makes sense. And I think Juan Garcia is a proactive goalkeeper. I think there's no question about that. And I think that's the biggest strength in terms of translating from being at Espanyol, where he's having to make sort of 7 or 8 saves a game or be very involved in the game, to Barcelona, where it's all about concentration and reading of the game. I think that is where, for me, because sometimes you do see goalkeepers maybe step up a level and not quite be able to do it. I think for me, Garcia has a lot of transferable skills already from Espanyol in that kind of regard.
Yeah, like you said, it's important that it was hard to see if Juan Garcia can sweep the ball by playing in a deep block in Espanyol. But what definitely evidence of the fact and very obvious is that he's such a good cross collector, and we conceded a lot of goals from wide flanks attacks that end up in the box with a cross. Juan Garcia definitely loves to bully and dominate his own box and basically grab and reach and collect every cross that comes through. And he's a massive guy. He's 191 centimeters tall, if I'm not wrong. And it's very easy for him to get there because he has a great wingspan too. And every cross he basically likes to go out for at there. And the difference is that Ter Stegen was bullied a lot in coming out of his line, and like we saw with against Roma in 2018 and multiple stuff where he basically lost his not his marker but lost the attacker and lost the ball and we ended up conceding. Juan Garcia is the opposite of that. He likes to bully the opponent and likes to bully the attacker, and like I said, a great positional awareness, and like you said, reminds me of a lot of Alisson, but he's even better than Alisson at coming out on crosses in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that's definitely fair. I think it's a confidence thing as well. I think you just see the confidence radiate from someone like Juan Garcia. And one thing I wanted to mention as well is in terms of maybe to finish off with, because obviously we're up to 20 minutes already. In terms of obviously the centre backs this season, to me, I personally think we should sign another centre back. I think you do as well. From previous conversations we've had, we probably should sign another centre back. In terms of what I think should happen and what I think will happen, I personally don't think we will sign another centre back. I think we seem pretty committed on people like, say, Ronald Araujo, for example. Do you think having a Juan Garcia in goal, that presence in goal, will see the confidence levels of Araujo increase and maybe we'll see Araujo back to his usual levels? Do you think that's still possible, or do you think it's a complete? We have to just totally refresh in terms of the centre back situation.
Not only with Araujo, I think it will benefit all the defenders. Like I said, it gives you a crazy moral boost knowing that you have a great goalkeeper in your back and helps you basically defend better because you know you're secure and you can let some shots go off and basically only cover the important side of the goal and let the other side open for because you have a great goalkeeper in your goal. So yes, like I said, I think we should buy a left center back too. I think Lukumi for that is perfect. He's I saw there are some interest, some easy interest, but they are there, and that's a good direction that Deco knows the importance of a left center back because Inigo's legs cannot go another season, in my opinion. Already there are 80 to 100 games per season without rest, including preseasons, including Euros, including Club World Cup. There are tons of games, and I think having another left center back to cover for Inigo Martinez will be incredible, and I think Lukumi is that guy.
Yeah, it's an interesting one in terms of what the situation will be. If I would like us to sign a centre back, it would just be interesting what happens. I feel like a centre back would have to leave for us to do that, and whether that be Christensen potentially, who knows? But I would like us to sign a centre back. There's no question about that. I think obviously Kubasi and Inigo have played so many games in terms of last season, and so many games consecutively as well. Obviously, Araujo was out for the whole first half of the season. It was pretty much been a half season of Kubasi and Inigo. Araujo comes back in, doesn't quite, it says dislodge Inigo out the team. Inigo reclaims his place. So in the end, you're seeing the same two play so many games. And I personally think that was a big factor behind maybe a slight drop off from both players in the sort of back end of the season. And I just think both will be galvanised by A, signing a goalkeeper, and B, signing another centre back. Well, obviously, that's a discussion for another day.
Yeah, I completely agree. And to put it all in a nutshell, I think Juan Garcia is definitely that guy, and is definitely signs that we're going in the right direction finally.
And that I think we'll leave it there anyway, because that is the main thing. Barcelona going back in the right direction. It feels like obviously years since we've had kind of clarity in the goalkeeping position. Wojciech Szczesny has done a solid job at the very least last season. And says I never thought Wojciech Szczesny would come back into the team from retirement and put in some of the performances that he did. Of course, there was errors along the way, but he did all in all do a solid job. I would like the idea of him being the second choice behind Juan Garcia, just passing on that little bit of experience as well. And if it means Teshagan has to leave, then I think that probably is going to be the case anyway. And I think for both parties' cases, Barcelona and Marc-Andre ter Stegen, I think it is probably better to move on now, especially if Juan Garcia is going to arrive at the club. We're going to leave it there, guys. Make sure you leave a comment in the video down below. Hit the like button as well. Hit that subscribe button as well. And make sure you check out Robbie's Twitter as well. I will leave a link in the description to that. And he's got a fantastic Juan Garcia thread coming up as well. So do check that out, guys, and we will leave it there. We'll be back with more videos as well. Hopefully reacting to more news, maybe a little bit more discussion about the left winger market because it seems to be hotting up. It seems to be a case of we get Juan Garcia done and then it's going to be on to the left wingers. That feels like the scenario. We'll see if it is, but we will be discussing that once again when we have a bit more clarity on it. We'll leave it there, guys. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll see you later. Thank you.